I do not have a water bottle filled with water. I have several bottles filled with water.
Perfect. Well, see, you have some. Some is better than none.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different ways to store your water. Here's a question for you. How long does water last if you've stored it properly?
See, there's a
It's a good
question because I've heard everything from every year you should to indefinitely.
And the answer is indefinitely if you've properly stored it. So let's talk about how we properly store ahead of time. Let's talk about the containers we want. Now, a lot of people just go buy bottled water, but as you can see, this kind of becomes a little less desirable. I'd say about 20 to 30% of that's gone. Any bottle that makes this noise, that crackly noise, is not going to store well. It's going to lose the water. So,
Is it safe to drink?
It is safe to drink.
After it crinkles?
Yeah, after it crinkles.
Okay.
It's just, you've spent a lot of money on packaging that is probably going to leak.
Okay.
I like a 1 or a 2 liter soda bottles. So these are a little heavier plastic, but you can buy pre-packaged water. Like I said, you can buy it this way. This is a fun way. You can get water in cans. You know, that's kind of a fun way to do it. You can get water in Mylar packages. You can get, these are kind of neat, Mylar package, but on a bigger level. So in a box. Stores nicely.
Can you stack multiple?
Yep. Which makes this one kind of nice because this is a very stackable.
And how many gallons is that for?
5 gallons.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So I actually got this at a city event. They had these and were giving people water. And I'm like, can I have your trash? Because I had never seen these before. So it's just a Mylar bag. I know. I take people's trash, okay? Look at this. Tell me this does not look like a trash pile. These are all my awesome things. What this is like 20 years worth of research of me playing in the lab with a bunch of different stuff.
So does this tell you where to get that box with?
Couple of different, you can find it at a couple of different manufacturers, but it's just a different way to do it. Now, if you don't buy it pre-filled, you're gonna wanna fill it yourself with just clean tap water. Here's the key. If you choose to do it with your tap water, you need to properly disinfect your container, whatever type of container it is. That means I need to wash this with dish soap, rinse it really well, and then that means it's clean. Now I need to disinfect it. So I need to put a little bit of Clorox in here, swirl it around so it covers the entire inside of this. I can rinse it out, or I can just fill it with water then. That's the step most people have missed. People have washed this, but they haven't disinfected. So if you do the wash and disinfect, these are good indefinitely.
Can I ask a question?
You can ask as many questions as you want.
So I have also been filling up soda bottles and Gatorade bottles, whatever, but I've just been rinsing them out. I haven't washed them as soon as I'm done, I just rinse it out so do I gotta dump out all that water that I have?
That water is not ideal for drinking because it can have bacterial regrowth. So you want to get all the sugars out of there, because if you don't get all the sugars out, then the bacteria can grow.
So rinsing it 3 times?
Not enough. You've got to completely wash and then disinfect.
Okay.
So that's now you can keep what you have, but I put an X on it or something and just mark it so you know that's not my drinking water. I can use that for sanitation.
Okay.
That's still better than nothing.
Okay.
So
back to the
yeah.
Okay.
But from now on, you're gonna wash it with soap and then disinfect it. See? Because now you've learned.
I'll water my plants with them and do it right.
Yeah.
Do you have a pen?
I do. Let me grab one. Hang on just a
Sorry,
second.
I was thinking of bringing a pen. I thought,
that's okay.
they'll have pens there.
I didn't bring any. I forgot. Let's see. There you go.
Thank you.
So a lot of people like to store these big blue barrels. They're kind of very popular. This time of the year, you can find them at Walmart. They're running about $90 right now. I know, they're kind of pricey for the big 55s.
Oh.
But I want you to remember, if you buy the big 55s, that weighs 460 pounds. Once you fill that thing, it's not moving. Now, I have some of these that I have stored. They're sitting out behind my shed. They're not going anywhere. And if we have a disaster in January, I'm going to be in trouble because I'm going to have wonderful ice. But it was where I could store it. This is a nice size because it's a little bit smaller. It's about a 15-gallon. It's 120 pounds. Now, I probably could roll it, at least. I'm not moving this very far, but I can make my husband do it. So, but if you do get one of these barrels, they do have those weird lips on them. I would say if you buy one, you need to get a barrel wrench. The barrel wrenches fit on top of this and are made to open these. What you will do, if not, because I have done this, you'll take a screwdriver and you'll go like that, and you're now going to run that screwdriver through your hand, and now I have an open wound in an emergency. So neither are ideal. So you can buy these. This is an aluminum one. I think I got it at Amazon. And while you're getting that, make certain you get a bucket opener to open like any 5-gallon buckets you have in your food storage.
I did not know they made such a thing.
Oh, it's the most amazing thing ever. Then you're not having to like try and do that. Then you have the bloody knuckles. So buy these, put them in your emergency preparedness if you do nothing else this week. That's a good thing to do. So yes.
Okay, we have a Facebook Live comment. They said, is it bad to leave a little bleach in the water? My mom puts a lid full of Clorox in the bottle of water, wondering if it's a good idea.
It is just fine to do that as long as you're not going to drink it immediately because it'll have a lot of chlorine. But my hope is I'm not having to drink this for a long time. So when I stored mine, once I rinsed my container out, I just left the chlorine in there, the Clorox in there, and just filled it with the water, and it's been several years. So good question, thank you. And thank you for letting us know we got questions.
And so how much chlorine would you put in a 15-gallon?
In a 15-gallon like that, I'd put maybe 3 tablespoons, but then I'd put some water in it. But I would roll this barrel so that all of the inside gets coated with that chlorine. I want it to touch every surface. And that's the key. You've got to disinfect it.
And does it have to be food grade?
Yes. And you also don't want to use used one of these because these barrels are really hard to clean. Now, I have reused some, but they came from our drinking water treatment plant, and they had calcium they had basically concentrated bleach in them. So I was okay to use that, but I would not use them if they're used. I would get these new, unfortunately. I would also, if you get the 55-gallon ones, you can buy these pumps. This one doesn't fit this one, but it goes in there, just a basic siphon pump. So make sure you have a weight, remember, because that was 460 pounds. So I'm not moving it if I have to move it. I personally like these. These, 40 pounds. I can carry 2 of these. Now I have to tell you, when the earthquake happened in March of 2020 out in Salt Lake City, I did not practice what I preach. I had 18 of these sitting in my garage completely empty. And then we had the earthquake, and I thought, well, that isn't doing me a lot of good now, is it? Because I hadn't filled them. I bought them fairly about 6 months before and just hadn't gotten around to it. So these are great storage containers, but they do nothing if you don't fill them. So I then promptly that day filled all of them, and I actually put one of my spare beds up on some little bit of a riser, and I've got 18 of them underneath one of my beds. So even though my big blue barrels might be frozen, I at least have this much in my house now. I have gone into my big blue barrels. They've now been stored for about 18 years. I crack them open periodically, take a sample out, and I'm checking it for bacterial regrowth, and I haven't seen any contamination yet.
And the freezing has not?
I left it with plenty. I only filled them about that full, so they have had plenty of room to expand. I was concerned about that. They're outside, so if it did expand and freeze, it wouldn't hurt anything. It's not ideal, but it's where I can fit those big barrels. So that's what I ended up doing. That's also why I have this on the inside. Now when I crack these open and I'm testing them for bacteria regrowth, I'm probably the biggest source of contamination because those barrels sitting out in my backyard are not the cleanest. I mean, I wash it all off before I open it, but every time I open it, I'm probably going to introduce more bacteria. But so far, I haven't seen anything. So, just a few kind of ideas. Another one, this is for people that live like in apartments. It's called a water bob. Now, I grew up in Idaho, and I can remember when the Teton Dam broke.
So Rexburg?
Idaho Falls, just south of there.
Idaho Falls.
And I can remember that we had to fill our bathtub immediately, and that was the water we used for several days. Now, I have teenage boys. Pretty certain that I am not going to have an emergency right after I have cleaned my bathtub. And if any of you have ever smelt teenage boys, they're nasty. And so, this, like, teenage boy funk is bad. So this is a big bladder that fits in your bathtub. Now, I do have to have enough time to be able to fill it in an emergency. And this one also comes with its own little tiny siphon pump. So kind of a fun, it's an alternative if you're in an apartment and you don't have a lot of places to store
How
water.
much water does that hold, does it say?
Bathtub size, 100 gallons.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You can see this one's been through the war and back. It's a little rough. But it's just a big bladder. But I have to, if, let's say my pipes are broken coming to my house and I have no water pressure, I'm up a creek. So, this is a preview. So, you know.
Water bob.
It's called a water bob. Mm-hmm. I've spent a lot of time buying lots of different water products and playing with them. And that's why I want everybody to see kind of what we have. Now, my mom, when she wanted to store water, this was too heavy for her to be able. She's almost 80. This was too heavy for her. We found these really nice little 1.3 gallon. They're basically 5 liter. And this is what she does because they've got nice handles, and she can carry those if she had to. She can move them around her house. Found those on Amazon, where all things come from.
What's it called?
They're just water. They're just water bags.
Water bag.
Uh-huh.
And those are short term.
These would be long term too.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Water bags, and they're 1.5 gallons.
Yeah, 5 liters. So
5. Oh.
they come in different sizes. This was the size that was about right for her to be able to lift.
Okay.
So we were looking for things that were a little bit easier for her because she didn't have a lot of storage. This was too heavy for her, but this was a nice alternative as something smaller. So lots of different options on your storing ahead of time, but remember, wash it with dish soap and then disinfect with Clorox. Those are the two things you have to do if you're going to store your own and haven't like bought pre-purchased water. So
to fill up your 15 or 55 gallon, can you use a garden hose?
I would use a new garden hose.
New garden.
Any idea why?
It hasn't had bugs crawling in.
That's exactly it. You don't know about you, but my garden hose is sitting out there where all the creepy crawlers are crawling up it. So I want a new garden hose.
Because, okay, so when you buy a new garden hose, right off the bat it says, do not drink out of the garden hose. So that's not necessarily true.
Not necessarily. I would disinfect that garden hose though, because just like you want to make sure that's clean, so I would flush it with water first, and then I would pour some bleach in it, flush that through, and then use that.
Okay.
So,
and then after you've used it once,
I just rolled mine up, I capped
put
the
it in a
ends.
bag or something,
And then I've kept it to fill mine with. Now, these I just did from the kitchen sink, because they were small enough and easy to do.
Okay.
But my big ones, I did have to use a garden hose. But yeah, don't use a used garden hose. They're full of creepy crawlies. So store ahead of time, that is always the best option. How much water should you store? I will guarantee you, you will not be able to store enough. Unless you start getting into like those 5,000 gallon,
I've looked at those.
They're great.
They're
But I know about
expensive.
you, but I'm living on a budget.
Yeah,
And
they're
so-
expensive.
So I went with things that were a little smaller and a little bit cheaper.
I saw one and I got excited. It was kind of affordable until you found out that it cost almost twice as much to ship it.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
So I subscribe to the versus one big one. I'm gonna do some smaller ones
Small ones.
and hope that if we have a large scale emergency that FEMA or there will be organizations that will come in. But have you seen in some of these, have you seen down in Jackson, Mississippi right now, people are going to get cases of bottled water. People are bringing pots to get water at distribution sites because they don't even have a carboy. If you at least have this or these bags,
That's called a carboy?
carboy, C-A-R-B-O-U-Y.
You went too fast for me.
Okay, C-A-R
B-
B-O-U-Y, carboy. Anything. They don't have anything to carry it in. And so people are showing up at emergency distribution points where they have this big water truck and a spigot on it, and they're filling pots. So have something, even if you don't fill these, you at least, they're nice and flat, you can store them easy, and they could go to a centralized distribution point, and you could fill it with water.
And then I have another question.
Yeah.
You mentioned quantity. I thought I read was a gallon a day per person.
That's how much you need to live. That has no sanitation needs.
So it's more like what?
It's more like, to be honest with you, probably 30 to 40 gallons a person per day.
I need to go move by a lake.
And there's the problem, is you can't store enough for sanitation. So, but what you can do is you can use lesser quality water for sanitation and keep the stuff you stored as your drinking water. That's the ideal, is I want to store the really good stuff, the stuff that I know is good ahead of time, and then I'm going to use that sparingly for my drinking water, and everything else we're going to talk about, you know, that river water I'm going to treat, I'm going to use that for sanitation needs. So that's my theory, because I have a pond down the street from me. Now granted, it is up a hill, so if I don't have my car, I'm going to be huffing it up that hill. And I have a cart, so I have a cart, and I have carboys, but at 8.34 pounds per gallon, water weighs a lot, and I'm old and fat. And so I got to hitch like some small children up to it or something, I don't know. But that's my plan. I don't know, I'll make it skinny in the emergency. So, but think about ahead of time, some type of, like I said, even if you just have some of these, you can buy these at Walmart, you can buy them at the grocery stores a lot of times. This time of the year, these types of things go on sale. Yeah.
And then another question.
Sure.
Let's go again, because what do we call it?
Uh-huh.
That bottled water that's people use for their water.
Oh yeah, yeah, in the water
Is
cooler.
that a long-term solution?
It is. And I have some
It
of
doesn't,
those.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
It doesn't lose, it doesn't crinkle like the,
No, this is a heavier plastic.
because they're real heavy.
I have some of those that I just refill down at some of our wells in our drinking water treatment plants. Because in the summertime I have warm water and I like the well water in the summertime because it's cold. So I fill that in the summertime because I like the water better from our wells. So that's a great option. The caps on those don't tend to always be sometimes tight. There's some that are screw top, some that are more just a slip on. So
Right.
pay attention to what type of a cap it is and how tight that is.
That's the ones I've seen that you just
Yeah,
puncture it when you drop it on the thing, so it's just a real
a real thin.
thin.
So that would be my only caution on it, but the bottles themselves are great. So have a plan, do something ahead of time, doesn't matter what it is, whatever works for you in your situation. That's one of the things about this is I'm not going to tell you this is exactly the product you could buy with one exception today. I'm going to tell you, here's some options. Make the decision that's right for you. Okay? Other questions about storage? We're good? Okay, so now we're at zombie apocalypse. So now I'm down to having to treat water from the river. This is where everyone wants to know because they're like, dude, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do here. Okay, there are two things I want you to remember. you will, first of all, 3 things. You will never drink water directly from any water source because I don't know what's upstream from that. But if I have to treat water from a river, a lake, a stream, whatever, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm always going to filter and then I'm going to disinfect. Always in that order, and they go hand in hand. I never do one without the other. Okay? Filter, disinfect. You remember nothing else. Filter and disinfect. Why? Filtration removes particles. Some of those particles might be dirt. Some of these particles might be these cute little guy. This is my E. coli. He's kind of cute. This little guy right here is Giardia. These are some of the nice little things floating in our raw water. They're going to be found in most streams and lakes. I want to try and get rid of these. Okay? I also have different things like here's cholera. I have all sorts of nasty diseases. So filtration is going to make disinfection work better. That's why we always filter first.
So those things you see in sporting goods stores that talk about just drinking directly from the pond is not a good...
I'm giving you the best option. Is that option better than nothing? Absolutely. So there's a lot of products out there like one of these, where you put it in the water and you suck directly into it. Okay? It's a filter. Very effective, but there's things that can make it through a filter, like viruses. Okay? Viruses, though, are super easy to disinfect. So, in an emergency, I want as many barriers between me and disease as possible. And if it's just a matter of changing my filtration and then disinfecting, you betcha I'm going to go with something more like these backpack filters. So you drop that in, and then you sit there and pump it, and you filter it through.
Into a bucket.
Into a bucket. Now, I like these, and I'm not going to tell you any brands, but this is the type of filters I like. These filters are ceramic. Okay?
Ceramic filters.
I like the ceramic filters. Here's the reason. Now, they can shatter, so you do have to treat them a little gently. This one wanders around my car all the time. But if this filter gets clogged, they give you these handy dandy green scouring pads. They look just like the ones I buy to wash my dishes. I go in here and I basically sand off the top layer and expose more pores. I can keep doing that until my filter comes with this little guide. When that will slide over my filter, it's now been used up. Basically, they don't think it has enough depth yet to give me that extra safety. So I've got a nice quality control check. And these are very robust. A lot of the other ones that are on the market are a paper filter. I don't like them as much because a lot of dirt particles are sharp. They're crystals, and they will actually rip through some of these paper filters. So any of the membrane filters I don't like as well because I don't know for certain. I haven't had something rip a hole in it. This one's pretty easy to tell if it's ripped a hole. So there's a lot of those direct use, ones like this that are like put your dirty water in and suck it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, same basic concept, you know, it's got the straw built in the water. But it's one barrier. I want 2 barriers to protect me as much as possible.
So if you put chlorine in with dirty water, and with that incident, no?
No, because the chlorine is going to react first with inorganic things like calcium and magnesium and ammonia, things that are in the dirt. That's why we want to remove the dirt to make the disinfection work better. And I don't want to waste my disinfectant. So these are not bad. Better than nothing? Absolutely. Are they ideal? No, they're not. So have you ever used one of these backpack filters? Okay, you need a small child full-time doing this. You better like con some neighborhood child into coming over because this is a full-time thing. Yeah.
Okay, someone is wondering where you purchased it and what is it called?
This is just a backpack filter. You can buy them on Amazon. They run about $100. I will tell you that you can pick them up at sporting goods stores also. I will tell you that please make certain and look at the pore size. It's not so much an issue anymore, but if you have an old backpack filter, please look at the pore size. For the same amount of money several years ago, I could buy anything that was 50 microns down to 2 microns. Why is this important? Remember my little guys, Giardia and E. coli? Giardia is really hard to kill with disinfection, but he's kind of big. He's 5 microns, and microscopically, that's kind of something big. E. coli, super easy to kill with disinfection, but he's a 1/2 micron or less. So if he makes it through a filter, I can disinfect him. This guy, I can't disinfect him because he kind of comes with this special shell around him, this oocyst. So years ago, for the same price, 50 microns, which is like letting elephants through, all the way to 2 microns. So 5 microns is the magic number. Most of the ones I'm seeing now are less than 2 microns. A lot of them are 0.2. What's the problem with going with, oh, I'm just gonna go with the smallest filter I can get? Any issues?
Takes forever to get through the filter.
That's the problem, is volume. So this one, I like this one because I know it's a 5 micron. It's old, you can't find ones like that anymore. But so I know it's going to let this guy go through, but I'm gonna disinfect, but it's gonna capture this guy. It's gonna capture my Giardia. So I do like that. The dirtier the water, the harder the filter is gonna have to work. So you're gonna want to pre-filter. And our pre-filter can be something as high-tech as a t-shirt. Do I know the pore size of a t-shirt? Absolutely not. But have you ever used a t-shirt to filter anything? It will trap the big chunky stuff before it gets to my filter. So anything as a pre-filter is better than nothing. So I can take a rubber band and put that on the end of this. Very, very easily. And I now can make my filter go a little bit longer. So I'm trying to do everything I can to maximize the amount of water I get for the minimal amount of effort because I'm lazy. Yeah.
Does boiling water kill Giardia?
Giardia? It will, and we're going to talk about that in disinfection, so I'm going to come back to that, but if I don't, remind me. So right now we're just talking about physically removing stuff, okay? So I told you you were going to need a pack of small children to do this all day long. There are large volume water filters out there.
What is in the bag next to the...
Oh, these are some other pre-filters. They're coffee filters.
Oh.
So I decided one day the pond down by my house, the one that's down the hill that I'm going to die bringing water back from, I went down there and I took a mason jar. And it looked like iced tea, quite frankly. And I'm like, well, that's delightful. So I thought, okay, I went and got coffee filters, and I filtered it through 3 coffee filters. Don't know the pore size of coffee filter, no idea, but it collected something. By the time I filtered it 3 times, I didn't have clean water, but I had water that no longer was brown. Is that water better to now filter through my filter? Absolutely, I'm taking something out. So these were just these are examples of pre-filters. Anything's better than nothing. Like I said, I keep a t-shirt. So if you want to do some large volume, there are a lot of options out there. This is one where you fill this up with your dirty water. You screw this you screw this inside of here. And then you let gravity filter it out. Okay, those work. This one, same type of a concept. Like I said, all of these will work. I fill the bucket, I scoop the bucket up, and then I let it filter through here again. Okay? I will also tell you, these tend to be a little bit pricier. These backpack filters are running about $100 to $150 for a decent one. These are running closer to the $200 range. So Little bit price. Remember I told you we're gonna do things on a budget. I work for the water district. We're not making tons of money. So I thought there's gotta be an easier way to do this. So I investigated this bucket option. And what we've done, this is one that I actually purchased. And I was like, I can do this. Have you ever heard of a product called a Berkey filter? Berkey filters are beautiful stainless steel, 2 buckets like this. Up here. 2 buckets like this, they're stainless steel, and they run about like hundreds of dollars. Okay, I don't have hundreds of dollars to spend, but I looked at what was the concept. The concept with a Berkey filter is these are ceramic dome filters. Okay, you drill a hole in the bottom of the bucket. These things come with all the fittings. I put that ceramic dome filter inside of there. That's what would go inside of this one. This is just my easier one that we're going to pass these around. Okay? And then I put a bucket underneath. Now, I knew this would work. I probably bought 20 of these. Couldn't get one of them to work. Finally, one of these filters, there was this little like fortune cookie sized piece of paper in there that said, these need 20 PSI to work. Now, that's 20 pounds per square inch. That means I either have to have a very tall column of water or I need a way to pressurize this. So, I said I can do this. What I did, I went down to the auto parts store. That is a tire stem valve, just like you have in your car. You buy them in sets of 4. I bought the fancy blue ones because I thought they looked very waterish. They're kind of cool. Now on this, I need to pressurize only this upper part. This would sit on top of another bucket. I didn't bring the other bucket because quite frankly, I had enough stuff in my vehicle coming out here. You would put the lid on, and then to pressurize it, I just got a cheap bicycle pump. And so I can attach this and pressurize it. Do I need to know if I get to 20 PSI? Nope. As soon as I hear water flowing, I have enough pressure. One thing I would recommend though, is instead of these lids that come standard with these buckets, I would get what they call the gamma lids. These are the ones that twist on. You have to buy these as an additional because they're easier to pressurize and keep on. So top one, a gamma lid. Bottom one is an unpressurized vessel, so it can be whatever. It doesn't have to have a fancy lid. So it can just have the regular lid. This whole thing, 2 buckets from the hardware store, a gamma lid. These come from Amazon, where all things come from. You Google ceramic dome filters are running probably about $10 to $12 a piece. I'm making this whole bucket for $30. Oh, and I got to buy my valves. I already had bicycle pumps because I had kids, and you're always blowing those up. So I already had one of those. So now instead of the $500 Berkey, I've got an under $50 one. This is within my budget. And I can just keep pouring the dirty water on top, screwing on the lid, pressurizing it, and collecting it down here. Now, is it ready to drink? No, I still need to disinfect. So these ceramic dome filters, this is one that's broken. You can see what they look like. And a lot of them are filled with carbon and different things. Once again, when they get dirty, I take my little scouring pad and I can clean it down. But they also come with, they come with a pre-filter that slides over top of them. So I can hand wash this, and this will keep this filter running longer. These do come with a little thumb screw and 2 Teflon washers. So everything you need to drill a hole in the bottom of this bucket and in the top of that lid. And that's your lid that it sits down upon. So pretty low tech. It's one of the reasons I kind of like it, is it makes it a little bit easier and something you can do on a budget. We made them for our family a couple of years ago for Christmas. Questions on filtration? Okay, any filtration, better than no filtration. If you're buying a filter, make certain it is 5 microns or smaller because you want to get Giardia, you want to get him out. And volume. Either have a pack of children or figure out some high volume, because I have done this backpacking. This is like, it's like, okay, I've got a liter of water after I've sat here and done this forever. And if you had a family of 4 or 5, you're gonna be all night doing it. It's a good thing you have a family of 4 or 5, because that's all they're gonna do is just filter that. So we have filtered our water we have found out in the wild. Now, I'm gonna sit this back down. I always feel like I'm gonna knock that over. Now we're gonna go to disinfection. I'm gonna give you disinfection in order of priority. Boiling, which was one of the questions we had online. We'll kill this guy. Boiling, always. But we're at a higher elevation. So how long do we boil for here in Utah?
Maybe 212 at sea level, 200 degrees.
How long?
So it'd probably be 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Now, remember, in an emergency, fuel might be really important. If you read any of the documents from FEMA, World Health Organization, they will give you at sea level. That is 1 minute at a roaring boil. This is when it's really going. Here in Utah, we've worked with the state emergency management and we've talked about this of, okay, what should it be? In Utah, we've decided 3, and we've tested that. 3 minutes is sufficient, and that's because at higher elevations, water boils at a lower temperature, so I need a longer exposure.
So 10 was a little.
So 10 is a little much.
3, okay.
So 3 minutes here in Utah. So if you see 1 minute, that's how come you're seeing it, that's at sea level. Here, 3 minutes. So number 1 way to do boiling. In an emergency, fuel might be a little bit tricky to get. It takes quite a bit of fuel to boil a big pot of water like that. So we're gonna go to my second favorite way. This is where I'm going to tell you the only brand name I'm going to tell you to buy, which is Clorox. And the reason I tell you this, I have had Clorox be shelf stable, sitting in my storage downstairs in my basement for up to 2 years. I have had the stuff like generic brands of chlorine or of bleach that when I buy it is at 50% strength and is basically no disinfectant properties within 2 weeks. So this is the only brand name. I don't know what Clorox magically does. It is the wonderful disinfectant. You do want to make sure you're not getting lavender or lemon scented or splash proof. You want just plain old fashioned grandma's Clorox. So how much do you do? Here's the easy. 2 drops per quart or liter. And I do both because if you buy those bags, they're metric. You're gonna be like, oh no, now I have to use the metric system. I can't handle this. So quarts and liters are about the same size. 2 drops are basically 8 drops per gallon. Now, anytime I use a chemical disinfectant, like my bleach, it needs to sit for a minimum of 30 minutes because this takes time to react. So 30 minutes of sitting around before I can drink it. So first I'm filtering it, then I'm either gonna boil for the 3 minutes or I'm going to add my bleach. Now let's say I have no bleach in my house. It's the zombie apocalypse. What other alternatives? Iodine tablets. That's something that's very popular. They come in tablet form. Here's the problem with those. If you have young children, iodine tablets will impart a taste to the water. So make sure you've got like some fruit punch mix to put in there because a lot of kids will not drink the water because it tastes funny. Other alternatives, silver products. There are a ton of silver products out there. Silver is toxic. When the Mormon pioneers came across the plains, they would scoop up in their barrels, their water, and they would toss a real silver dollar in and let it sit all day. And that would, so a silver dollar will work. Now, That's going to take a much longer period of time than something that's already in the liquid form. Here's the problem with the silver products. Every company makes something different. They're all different concentrations, so I can't tell you how much to add. I will tell you, I typically go with a capful per gallon, which is more than the 8 drops, but I really don't know. So people use this as a dietary supplement, like they drink it straight. So if you overdose on it, it shouldn't hurt you. But silver products are out there and a good way to do this. Where I use the silver products is when we go camping and backpacking. I have been to every REI, Cabela's, Shields, and I'm like, I need a container that can let me add drop-wise Clorox. I have bought more of these little squirty bottles, and do you know how many of them have worked? Absolutely none. Every stinking one of them have bleached everything I've got. They've leaked like a sieve. So I do use this, and I put the silver products in it because it will not, if it does leak, it doesn't leave a stain. So when my son used to go backpacking the high Uintahs, this is what he would take filled with the silver solution. Not the ideal, it's not the bleach, but he knew to give it a good squirt and it didn't leak everywhere and bleach all his gear. So that's my problem with bleach is this is the container you store it in. This is the container you bring it in. Now, the dollar store has some really cute little bleach bottles that are much smaller. When I went to girls' camp this summer, that's what I bought and that's what we treated our water with. So it was a nice size one, but Clorox, no name, no going without a name brand on that. So it's the zombie apocalypse. I'm out of bleach. I don't have any silver. Somebody robbed me of my silver dollars. So now what do? I told you, this is the zombie apocalypse, okay? We're gonna go to my 3rd level techniques of disinfection. Remember, boiling, by far the best. Chemical disinfection, the next one. Coming in at a way longer third base is gonna be solar disinfection. Okay, I have 2 different ways. The first one, remember our 2-liter bottles that we had? These are called SODIs. S-O-D-I. And years ago in Jamaica, no, not Jamaica, in the Caribbean, now I can't think what country, they had an earthquake. Wow, my mind went blank, sorry about that. This was about 15 years ago. And the World Health Organization knew that there were lots of plastic bottles like this. So they told people, take your handy dandy t-shirt, stretch it out over a bucket, filter your water through that, and then pour it into one of these. You're then gonna go sit it outside in the direct sunlight, and the UV radiation will inactivate the microorganisms. Now, this takes hours to do though. There's the downside. And things will start to regrow. So this is not a long-term, this is, I disinfect it and I use it later that day or the next day. Okay, this isn't a storage one. Not the ideal. But they had a lot of these in their trash in these Caribbean islands. So that is one of the things they told them. Another option versus UV is to use a process called pasteurization. We pasteurize our milk. Same exact principle happens here. We're gonna pasteurize, and pasteurization happens at, I have this written down because I always forget, 149 degrees Fahrenheit, so significantly lower than boiling. This is a thermal technique. There's lots of products out there. Once again, I have bought them all for you to look at ahead of time. This gives the little instructions here. You scoop your water up. It has a filter. We filter our water, we put it in there, and then we hang this in the sun, and it gets up to pasteurization temperature. But here's my problem. I know if I boil, I can see it boil. I know if I put chemical in. How do I know that this gets to the 149 degrees? There's a way to tell. These are called WAPIs. WAPI, Water Pasteurization Indicator. These are really high tech. This is soybean oil inside of here. Soybean oil melts at roughly 150 degrees. This is on a fishing line with 2 washers on either side. So what I do is I put this in whatever I'm going to do my solar disinfection. We'll talk about this over here. And when it reaches temperature, it will melt. And I'll see it'll be down. It'll go from the top of the little tube down to the bottom. I can flip it over, slide it down, and reuse it again and again and again. Super low tech. Had a coworker, went down to South America to do some humanitarian work. His wife was a nurse. And he says, I want to bring these. So we found a beeswax that melted at about 156 degrees. We took straws, we crimped them with his daughter's hair straightener, put the beeswax in there, put a washer on it, crimped the other end so they kind of bobbed in the water, and you could flip them over. We made a couple hundred of these as a district. Sent him down with him. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna practice what you've taught me, Monica. So he filtered and then he disinfected using the solar, tested his little WAPI. He was the only one in his group that did not get a waterborne disease. Those women, those villages were like, okay, we will take your little thingies now. And so now that is something they standard bring down now. Can be really low tech. You can buy these once again, where all things come from on Amazon. So if you don't want to buy one of these fancy things, I believe in things doing double duties. This is my solar cooker, okay? This is from a group called Solar Cookers International. They're the ones that taught me all about WAPIs. Now you can spend a lot of money, just like the Berkey filters, you can spend a lot of money on solar cookers. This is roughly my $15 solar cooker. What this is here is insulation that you put around pipes. It's basically bubble wrap with aluminum foil on it. You buy it in big rolls at the home department stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, and then you cut out this little pattern. I put some high-tech Velcro on it so it sticks together, and it folds up nicely. One of the things you have to do with a solar cooker, though, is you have to have some type of a closed system. Typically, they're in a big box with a lid that sits tight. My closed system are my high-tech turkey bags. I have high-tech turkey bags. I have a potato chip clip to hold my turkey bag closed. And then I'm sitting these on 2 pieces of wood. I say, 1 o'clock here in Utah is about when sun's at the highest. Yeah, that looks about right. I point it there, and then before I close it up, I put my WAPI in there. I come back and I look and see, did my wax melt? So there's my quality control check. This is not the ideal. Once again, boiling, chemical. Then we go to these solar techniques. But at least with pasteurization, I do have an indicator. I would be hesitant to use it without an indicator because I just don't know. But this does make an awesome solar cooker. Once again, we built these and gave them to our family. They fold up to be about this big, about the size of a big, thick dictionary. Those of you who remember what dictionaries were. Now we just Google everything. So, disinfection, filtration always first, disinfection. The last thing, I'm a few minutes late, last thing I'm just gonna cover just briefly is all of this is great. If you do not have a plan for your human waste, everything you have done here will be for naught because you're gonna contaminate you and your family. So have some type of a plan. I'm not an expert in sewage treatment, but have something. What is recommended by FEMA and EPA is to bag your waste until services resume and have a dedicated container for it. It might be your trash container, keep it away from animals. So they sell a lot of products out there. I've seen these where you take the pool noodles you get at the dollar store. Okay, I want something a little cushy. I would also recommend getting a taller bucket because this is really short, by the way. And then you put some type of bag. They make these bags, they're called double duty, you know, pun intended. And it's just a bag inside of a bag. These are stinking expensive. Go buy a bunch of contractor bags. They're heavy duty and just double bag in that. So just have a plan for this because this is important. What comes into your house and what goes out of your house. Very, very important. So, summary. Store before the disaster. You're going to wash and disinfect everything if you're going to store it yourself. Then, zombie apocalypse. Filter with something. Even if it's the t-shirt. Even if it's the coffee filter. Something is better than nothing. Because you want to remove those particles so your disinfection works well. Disinfection. Boil for 3 minutes. Always the best option. If fuel is a crisis, then you're going to use my only name brand I peddle. Clorox, 2 drops per liter or quart. Other options, silver, iodine, different things. And then our third level are those solar techniques. So, any questions? Yeah.
On the very end,
Yes.
could you hold that? Oh, I guess I could walk around it. But, so, what do you recommend for hand sanitizer after you use the facility?
Use the loo.
After you use the loo, do you like wipes or the squeeze?
I like soap and water.
Soap and water. So
Soap and water. And I'm not going to use this water that I've stored. I'm going to use this water that I'm disinfecting and filtering.
Okay.
So this is the sanitation water, not my good drinking water. So I like soap and water because soap is really cheap.
And the little guys, even though you wash your hands in dirty water,
It's not going to be dirty. It's just not going to be as guaranteed clean as my water coming out of my tap was when I put it in that.
but I mean, if you washed your hand, let's
Let's say you just have river water.
yeah,
Mhm.
well it won't, none of those guys will stick onto your
Better than
hands.
nothing.
Okay,
Better not washing your hands.
okay.
You know, and let's face it, after the last several years, we now have gallons of, hand sanitizer in all of our houses. Where I bet you in February of 2020, you didn't have nearly as much hand sanitizer as you now have. So, different world than we live in. But yeah, I would just use soap and water. Soap's very, very effective. Any other questions? Perfect. Those of you that are online, I have a flyer that I've handed out here. You can go to our website at Central Utah Water Conservancy District. The abbreviation is CUWCD.com. CUWCD.com. And if you go, it's under resources, and then it says school curriculum. It's really weird, and there's an adult section. These flyers are all in there, so you can download those for free. I want to thank the Uintah Library for having us here today. I appreciate them. Hopefully, you have learned one thing you want to do during September, which is National Preparedness Month. I don't care what the one thing is. Go out and do one thing. And thank you so much.